Hello, this is going to be a book review for The Chosen by Sharon Sala. Right now, Sharon Sala is probably my favorite author right now. She does rotate from time to time, but she has been my favorite author for a couple of years now, and I've been trying to read as much as I can out of her works, which I've gotten quite a few now, but I still have so many to read, and I still need a lot of her earlier works and her brand new one. This one here came out in 2005. It's 378 pages, which is a mass market paperback, and the text size is pretty good. I was able to read it without my glasses, which is nice because I can't read super small text. I think it's a little on the smaller side, but still very readable, not teeny tiny. Here's the back of the book. It says, "One man murdered, one more dug from his grave, 12 others missing. This is no coincidence." Respected Washington, D.C. journalist January Delana, I think it is, January Delana, is positive the threads of each victim's disappearance are intertwined. But who's behind these horrific crimes? All signs point to the man who calls himself the Sinner, a disturbed homeless man trawling the streets of the nation's capital, luring victims into his fanatical world of salvation and redemption. January can't keep her suspicions private, and soon she's got the ear and the interest of homicide detective Benjamin North. But January has a secret, one that places her directly in the path of the twisted, self-proclaimed Messiah's rage. Suddenly, getting this story has January and Benjamin headed back to hell. But this is also from Mira Books, and it's a mass market paperback, as I said before. If you wanted to go to the site, it's mirabooks.com, M-I-R-A. She doesn't have an official website, but she does have a MySpace. If you just search Sharon Sala, she does update that. And so if you want to keep up to date with her books and releases and stuff like that, plus some of her personal life, then you want to find her on MySpace. She's very nice. I added her, and she actually messaged me back when I told her that she was my favorite author. So I thought that was nice. She was kind of surprised and pleased that I told her that. So, but I did like this book. But however, the beginning of it starts off kind of jumping around a little, like chronology, the time, like. How did it? I wrote down here. Okay, it starts out with one part, and then it jumps to 9 months later. And then it goes back to the point where January and Ben met. And then it jumps back forward ahead to present time, and then it jumps a few weeks here, and then a few more weeks, and etc., etc. Which, after the first couple of jumps, I caught on, but maybe it was because I was sick when I was reading it, but I was just having a hard time kind of keeping the timeline straight in my head, and it kind of more time had passed in the book than I realized had, and so I had a hard time just kind of keeping that timeline. But after that, everything kind of settled down more. After that, the pace kept up pretty good. It kept my attention, so I wanted to keep knowing what was going on. And by the time I'm getting to the end, I really, really can't put it down because I really want to know what's going to happen. So it really kept my attention much more at the end of the book than the first few chapters did, which is nice because I was getting a little bored after the first couple chapters. But I was pleasantly surprised, and when I got down to the last 4 or 5 chapters, I guess, I actually read it walking on the way home down the highway, which is not the safest thing to do. And then when I got home, I wouldn't go in the house because I know once I went in the house, I'd put the book down and do something else. So I sat out in my yard for about half an hour until I finished reading it. It had my attention that well to want to know what happened. Now, the difference with this book is that we already know who the killer is. It starts right off. The first couple of pages, I believe the first chapter, yeah, the prologue, is the Sinner, Jay Carpenter. It's him going through what has got him set on his path. I guess he was like a pimp and criminal and everything like that, but he developed a brain tumor, and it almost killed him. And then he had a near-death experience where he went to hell instead of to heaven. So when they revive him, and they've taken out most of the tumor and everything, he changes his total lifestyle. He's trying to not go back to hell. So he's trying to do everything he can to get to heaven, which means that he's trying to walk in his shoes. He's trying to live as Jesus lived, gathering disciples and everything like that. I won't go into a whole lot more detail because you got to kind of read it, but in his twisted mind, he's doing the right thing to get himself into heaven when he's really becoming very violent and mean and destructive person who, whether you believe in heaven or hell or not, it's kind of the perfect candidate for hell. So January, who is a reporter, as mentioned, and Ben team up, and of course, you know, I read romantic mysteries and everything like that, so January and Ben get together and everything. It's not that far into the book when that happens, so you know it's going to happen. But like I said, I was very happy with the end. It was well worth the read, and hopefully no one else would have problems with the timeline like I did, because like I said, I was sick, and so I was a little foggy-headed, and that could have been it. But it didn't take me very long to read this at all. Maybe a week, maybe not even that long. I know the last book took me about 9 days, and I think this was less than that, so I read it pretty good. So, there's actually a rather nice dedication in here, too, that she puts. It says, during the writing of this book, it seemed difficult to me to focus on fiction, even though the story was one I wanted to tell. The reason for my distraction was that we were at war, and at the writing of this dedication are still at war with no end in sight. It seemed a bit shallow to be dwelling on my deadlines when there were families who had loved ones in the midst of fighting, and others who were having to bury fallen loved ones who died in the line of fire. The dedications in my book have always meant a lot to me. I don't just dash off a couple of thoughts and call it done. And while this is such a small thing to do for our men and women in the military who are sacrificing so much, it's the only thing I can do for them besides remembering them in my prayers. So for every man and woman who wears a military uniform of the United States of America, and for every soldier who's perished in the line of fire, and for every family who's sacrificed the ultimate, and for those who still fight, I honor you and pray for you and dedicate this book in your name. So I thought this was a very nice dedication for her, and it's mentioned in there because there are soldiers in this book that that you'll read about if you read it. So that's my little review for Sharon Sala's The Chosen. If you have any questions or suggestions for the next review, please feel free to comment, etc. Let me know, because I'd love to hear. Okay? Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. Talk to you next time.